Hey everyone, welcome back to Rocky Watches Movies. Today we are blasting off into the epic universe of the sci-fi reboot of Battlestar Galactica, both the 2003 miniseries and the 2004 series. This gritty and tense series redefined space drama with its complex characters, gripping storylines and thought-provoking themes about survival and humanity. But how much do you really know about what went on behind the scenes? So strap yourself in and prepare for launch as we count down 20 things you never knew about Battlestar Galactica. After the original Battlestar Galactica was cancelled, creator Glenn A. Larson attempted a revival following a fan writing campaign. The result was Galactica 1980, which followed the colonists' arrival on modern-day Earth. Plagued by poor ratings, it was cancelled after just 10 episodes. Larson also pitched a Battlestar Pegasus film, but the idea was rejected. Meanwhile, Richard Hatch, who played Apollo, independently financed a trailer for Battlestar Galactica: The Second Coming. It featured several original cast members and toured sci-fi conventions to build support. Universal ultimately passed on the project. Then in 2000, Bryan Singer partnered with Fox on a new series, set 25 years later, with sets built and casting underway. However, after the 9/11 attacks delayed production and Singer departed to direct X-Men 2, Fox lost interest. With the franchise stalled again, Angela Mancuso of Universal Cable Entertainment reclaimed the property for the Sci-Fi Channel, bringing in executive producer David Icke, setting the stage for its eventual reinvention. Executive producer David Icke worried writer Ronald D. Moore might shy away from another sci-fi project after writing for 3 Star Trek shows. But Moore welcomed the chance to break free from its constraints. Frustrated by the franchise's storytelling limits, he envisioned a grittier, more cinematic Battlestar Galactica, handheld camera work, flawed characters, and realistic space action. By the time Battlestar Galactica reached Ronald Moore, he saw parallels in the original series to the 9/11 attacks that he could explore. While 9/11 didn't prompt the revival, its aftermath, including the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, the Patriot Act, and Guantanamo Bay, shaped the show's direction. Moore believed the series would have unfolded very differently without these events. Moore was determined to make his vision for Battlestar Galactica, which began as a miniseries before being approved as a full series, clear from the outset. To achieve this, he included a 3-page manifesto at the start of the miniseries script, a document that has since become legendary among fans. Titled Naturalistic Science Fiction, or Taking the Opera Out of Space Opera, the manifesto opened with a bold mission statement. Our goal is nothing less than the reinvention of the science fiction television series. This is included in the Battlestar Galactica series Bible, which you can read online. Lucy Lawless, best known for Xena Warrior Princess, was originally offered the role of Ellen Tigh. Feeling she wasn't right for the part, she declined. The producers were so eager to work with her that they later created the character of Deanna Byers specifically for her. Grace Park initially auditioned for Duala, but was turned down. Encouraged to try again, she tested for Starbuck and was rejected once more. On her 3rd attempt, she landed the role of Boomer, proving persistence pays off. Meanwhile, model turned actress Tricia Helfer auditioned for number 6, with minimal acting experience. The producers were so impressed that they expanded her prominence in the marketing campaign, with her striking red dress image becoming one of the show's most iconic visuals. When developing his new take on the series, Moore looked for ways to reinvent the original characters, particularly Apollo and Starbuck, the 2 standout pilots from Larson's show. Finding the familiar by-the-book pilot versus Maverick dynamic cliched, he searched for a way to subvert expectations, and hit on a simple but radical idea. he decided to make Starbuck a woman, instantly transforming the character and reshaping the show's entire dynamic. With society only just growing accustomed to women in combat roles, the change felt timely and bold, and it went on to have a major impact on the series. Moore admitted he expected mild controversy, but was surprised by the scale of the backlash. Rather than retreat, he embraced it, welcoming the publicity and even jokingly encouraging outraged critics to keep the debate going. No one was more infuriated with the gender swap than Dirk Benedict, who had portrayed Starbuck in the original Battlestar Galactica. He even penned an essay expressing his disdain for the change, titled Starbuck Lost in Castration. In his 2004 post, he wrote that Starbuck would become Stardough, likening it to the removal of masculine traits, and criticised those responsible for the change with sharp sarcasm. Years later, however, the two managed to reconcile their differences and were even photographed together. Several popular stars were considered to increase its appeal. Ed Harris and Sam Shepard were both in contention for the role of Commander Adama. In a move that seemed like a subtle jab at their long-standing rivalry with Star Wars, Universal even contemplated casting Harrison Ford. Jane Seymour was offered the part of Admiral Kane, a formidable and commanding leader within the colonial fleet, showcasing a marked departure from her earlier role as Serena. Another casting idea included John Cryer from 2.5 Men as Baltar. Before the miniseries aired, the Sci-Fi Channel decided to test it with a focus group in Houston. The results were far from positive. Moore recalled that the feedback was overwhelmingly negative, with the cover sheet stating it was one of the worst test screenings they had ever seen and expressing no reason to pick the show up as a series. The analytics were equally poor, with only Edward James Olmos receiving a somewhat decent reaction, though even that was mediocre. The Sci-Fi Channel panicked, but by then the show was already complete. Although Moore and Ike were keen on a serialised narrative, the show's first season had to adopt a more episodic approach. According to Moore, this initially meant episodes focusing on different types of ships within the colonial fleet. However, there was one major obstacle: sets were expensive. Moore explained that the original plan was to explore the ragtag fleet as a diverse world and community, with stories set on various vessels such as hospitals, prisons, schools, and even malls. But practical limitations soon became apparent. The prison ship episode was produced early on and nearly blew the budget. This forced the team to reconsider, leading to the decision to abandon many of those story ideas and instead concentrate much more on what was happening aboard the Galactica itself. There are Easter egg references to other TV series and films within the genre. For instance, in part 1 of the miniseries, the ship Serenity from Firefly can be seen flying overhead during Laura Roslin's doctor's appointment. The term skin job, frequently used in the show to describe the new Cylons who resemble humans, originally came from Blade Runner, a film also starring Edward James Olmos, who played Commander Adama. Another notable nod is to Star Trek. The sequence 1701 appears throughout, one example being on the weapons locker in the Season 4 episode The Ties That Bind. This sequence references the USS Enterprise, NCC 1701. In fact, a brief glimpse of the Enterprise itself appears among the ships in the fleet, in a shot from the miniseries, and it's included in the show opening throughout Season 1. It's not easy to spot though. During the creation of the remake, the creators made a concerted effort to incorporate many elements from the original series. Among these were two popular colonial games from the original, the card game Pyramid and the sports game Triad. However, in adapting these elements for the remake, Moore inadvertently swapped the two. As a result, Triad became the card game, while Pyramid was reimagined as the team sport. According to Moore, sci-fi executives generally avoided dictating storylines, though discussions about tone were frequent, a point echoed by former sci-fi content head Mark Stern. Stern recalled debates with Moore and David Icke over balancing despair and resilience in the series. The network once suggested showing moments of optimism, like birthday parties, to illustrate life continuing after the Cylon attack. Moore and the writers complied in their own darkly humorous way. After a pilot completed 1,000 flights, the crew celebrated by lifting him onto their shoulders, only for a bomb to come in and kill everyone. Stern said he understood the message immediately, and from then on, any seemingly happy scene was assumed to be short-lived. Edward James Olmos was initially hesitant to play Admiral William Adama, having little sci-fi experience beyond Blade Runner, and fearing the series might not treat its story seriously. After reading the scripts and Moore's manifesto, he joined, insisting from the start that the cast fully commit and the material never be mocked. James Callis later remarked on Olmos's intensity, noting that he and Mary McDonnell inspired the cast with their professionalism and complete dedication to their roles. One of the lasting mysteries of Battlestar Galactica surrounds the fate of Kara Starbuck Thrace. She seemingly dies in Season 3, only to return in the finale after a 2-month absence. Later, she enters the coordinates for the fleet's jump to Earth, and then vanishes without explanation in the series finale. Ever since, fans have debated what she truly was, how she returned, and what her ultimate purpose might have been. Writer-producer David Weddle revealed that even inside the writer's room there were multiple theories about Kara's nature and fate. Crucially, the team never settled on a single answer, and never intended to. They preferred the mystery to remain open, allowing for many possible interpretations rather than one definitive explanation. Relations between Glenn A. Larson and Ronald D. Moore became strained after Moore introduced significant changes in the reimagined Battlestar Galactica. Tensions worsened when Larson sought credit on the reboot script, leading to arbitration with the Writers Guild of America. Moore was willing to grant Larson story credit as the franchise's creator, but Larson pursued teleplay credit as well, which the WGA ultimately awarded him. Moore was particularly frustrated that Larson accepted the credit under the pseudonym Christopher Eric James, rather than his own name. Seeing the credit read Ronald D. Moore and Christopher Eric James, Moore felt it implied his script had been rewritten or supplemented, obscuring both the show's origins and his own contribution, a grievance he admitted he never fully forgave. One of the defining features of the Battlestar Galactica revival was its choice to portray the Cylons not only as metallic Centurions, but also as human-looking sleeper agents, gradually revealed as the series progressed. Moore explained that early on there was no clear idea of the Cylons' overarching mythology, or how the storylines would connect, but there was confidence that these mysteries would be resolved over time. The initial vagueness extended even to the series' famous opening text, declaring that the Cylons have a plan, which was in fact a pure marketing ploy suggested by Icke. Moore recalled that for the next 14 years, people kept asking about the plan, to which he replied there was no plan at all. Battlestar Galactica was midway through its final season when the Writers Guild of America strike forced Moore and his team to stop writing, even as filming continued in Vancouver using completed scripts. The last finished episode at that point was Revelations, in which the survivors finally reach Earth, only to find a devastated wasteland. Moore urged production to keep shooting as long as possible, though he had no idea how long the strike would last. While he doubted Sci-Fi would cancel the series, concerns grew as the stoppage dragged on. In hindsight, he believed cancellation was unlikely unless the strike had stretched on for a year or more. But at that time, the uncertainty was nerve-wracking. Fortunately, the strike ended in time for the writers to return and complete the final episodes as planned. Battlestar Galactica's powerful themes of war and survival even inspired the United Nations to hold a special session in 2009, featuring some of the show's actors and creators. According to an article from the UN News Centre, the panel discussed topics such as human rights, terrorism, children and armed conflict, and reconciliation between civilians and faiths. Battlestar Galactica concluded its acclaimed run on sci-fi in the spring of 2009, but the story was far from over. In 2010, a TV movie titled The Plan was released, followed by a short-lived prequel series, Caprica, co-created by Moore, which ran for a single season. Another prequel, Blood and Chrome, emerged as a 10-part web series in 2012, before being compiled into a TV movie in 2013. And there you have it, folks. You now know a little bit more about Battlestar Galactica. If you enjoyed the video, which I presume you did as you got this far, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos coming to Rocky Watches Movies. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.